lost again in Pittsburgh. The Dodgers pitching staff gave up 10 runs. The LA Sparks are now 2-7 in the WNBA after losing at home by 24 to the Minnesota Lynx. Troubling moment for the Chicago Sky when they arrived at their team hotel Wednesday in Washington, D.C. When the players got off the bus, a man approached Sky forward Kennedy Carter and shouted racist remarks at her. The man expressed anger at Carter for committing a flagrant foul Saturday on Indiana Fever guard Caitlin Clark. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
When I move my body, I feel like freedom. Happy anniversary, KBLA.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
And they wondered if a black talk radio station would work in Southern California.
Y'all did it!
Well, KBLA Talk 1580 toasts its 3rd anniversary on Juneteenth, and you're invited to celebrate with us.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, y'all the bomb.
All you have to do is go to KBLA1580.com right now and sign up. Admission is free, but mandatory, and space is limited. Once we reach capacity, we'll have to cut off the online registration, but it's open right now.
Oh, my God.
So don't delay.
Thank you guys for doing the best at what you do.
Log on to KBLATalk1580.com right now and register to join us for an afternoon of good music, good people, and good vibes.
Happy anniversary.
Wednesday, June 19th, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. We will provide the food and drink, but be sure to bring your low-back chairs, blankets, and your personal picnic baskets.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Let's celebrate 3 years of being the most trusted, credible, and reliable source of news and information.
We love you, KBLA.
We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're black and stride again.
Black and stride again.
Happy anniversary.
1, 2, 3, I'm gonna try to keep it coming. Things ain't always smooth, but I'll be alright as long as I can find the groove. Yes, I will. Somehow I know that I can make it. You seem to like my style. Don't you worry, I'm gonna be around a while. Yes, I will. I'm just happy to see you talk to me back and style again.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavisSmileyShow.com. That's thetavisSmileyShow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, writer and professor of African American Studies, Dr. Adalifu Nama, joins us to celebrate the life, legacy, and impact of Prince on the born date tomorrow, June 7th. That's Prince's birthday. So we're a day ahead of that, but we're going to celebrate Prince's life and legacy today. In our second hour, we'll delve into Dr. Nama's new book, I Wonder You, How Prince Went Beyond Race and Back. As you know, June is Black Music Month. And all throughout the month of June, every single day on this program, we choose a different artist, and we play their music all 3 hours of the program. Today, it's Prince, given that we are on the eve of his natal day. So Monday, we started with Curtis Mayfield. Tuesday, we did what? Ella Fitzgerald on Tuesday. Yesterday, we had the R&B legend, Glenn Jones, on our program yesterday. We had Glenn Jones yesterday and the OJs. Eric Nolan from the Mighty OJs was here yesterday. So 3 amazing days of great music so far as we celebrate once again June as Black Music Month. And given that we're going to talk to Dr. Nama about his new book, I Wonder You, How Prince Went Beyond Race and Back, in our second hour, all 3 hours of today's program, we will celebrate some of the best music that Prince ever produced, and there's a whole lot of it. I told the story yesterday. Prince would be on stage in concert, if you ever saw him. And somewhere in the middle of the show, he'd look at the audience and say, what should I play next? And all kinds of folks start throwing song titles at him, yelling out all around the arena. He'd lean in and say, so many hits, so little time. So at 3 hours, we'll do our best to bring you some of the best of Prince as we celebrate Prince Rogers Nelson all day today here in June, Black Music Month. In our third hour today,
I've come here today to do what the Republicans in Congress refuse to do. Take the necessary steps to secure our border. 4 months ago, after weeks of intense negotiation between my staff and Democrats and Republicans, we came to a clear bipartisan deal. It was the strongest border security agreement in decades. But then, Republicans in Congress, not all, but walked away from it. Why? Because Donald Trump told them to. He told the Republicans, it has been published widely by many of you, that he didn't want to fix the issue. He wanted to use it to attack me. That's what he wanted to do. It was a cynical and an extremely cynical political move, and a complete disservice to the American people who are looking for us to not to weaponize the border, but to fix it. Today, I'm joined by a bipartisan group of governors, members of Congress, mayors, law enforcement officials, most of whom live and work along the southern border. They know the border is not a political issue to be weaponized. The responsibility we have to share to do something about it. They don't have time for the games played in Washington, and neither do the American people. So today, I'm moving past Republican obstruction and using the executive authorities available to me as president to do what I can on my own to address the border. Frankly, I would have preferred to address this issue through bipartisan legislation, because that's the only way to actually get the kind of system we have now that's broken, fixed, to hire more Border Patrol agents, more asylum officers, more judges. But Republicans have left me no choice. Today, I'm announcing actions to bar migrants who cross our southern border unlawfully from receiving asylum. Migrants will be restricted.
There you hear the voice of President Joseph R. Biden talking this week about his decision to essentially close the border, our southern border with Mexico, to asylum seekers. This issue is tricky. It is thorny, and we'll be joined in our third hour by veteran broadcaster Ray Suarez, live in studio for a conversation about his new book on immigration, We Are Home. We Are Home, Becoming American in the 21st Century. Ray Suarez is our guest today in studio in our third hour. But in this first hour, 2 more conversations on the B side of this hour. Theologian, social activist, and author Rahel Tesfamariam on her new text, Imagine Freedom, Transforming Pain into Political and Spiritual Power. We'll do that on the B side of this hour. But when we come forward, we'll commence today's show talking politics with the Democratic Senator from the swing state of Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin. You're listening, and I'm glad about it, to Tavis Smiley.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley. Ranked number 45 on the Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America.
Have you not been feeling yourself lately? Have your weight loss dreams turned into a weight gain nightmare? Have you been chasing those 20 pounds for 20 years? Well, it's time for D-Herbs. D-Herbs Full Body Cleanse is a natural cleansing regimen that can help you lose 20 pounds in just 20 days. The Full Body Cleanse will also boost your immune system and improve your digestion. With summer just around the corner, stop chasing those 20 pounds and propel yourself into a healthier lifestyle. To reboot your system and lose weight, just go to dherbs.com and order your Full Body Cleanse or call 866-434-3727. Mention Tavis and get a discount on your order. dherbs.com. Experience healing.
Cookie wants to be a professional wrestler.
I'm Cookie Serratos and I'm 11 years old.
She also wants to win all the medals. That's why Cookie and her family make every day count, squeezing out her best with Go-Go Squeeze.
Okay, Cookie, let's break for a Go-Go Squeeze.
Go-Go Squeeze Fruit on the Go pouches are a nutritious snack made from 100% fruit with no sugar added.
Go, Cookie!
Because when you nurture your kids, you squeeze out the best in them. Squeeze out the best with Go-Go Squeeze. Not a low-calorie food. Products range from 11 to 13 grams of sugar and 60 to 70 calories per serving.
Medicare Fraud Prevention Week focuses on the actions everyone can take to prevent Medicare fraud, errors, and abuse. Learn how to protect yourself and your loved ones by joining the Senior Medicare Patrol, or SMP, for Medicare Fraud Prevention Week, June 3rd through the 9th. Learn more at snpresource.org or by calling 1-877-808-2468.
I have diabetes. I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I have asthma. I'm at risk too.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
You give and you give. It's time to get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data and a Samsung Galaxy A14 included with the activation of a Silver Unlimited plan. So you can give your janky phone to your kid. Yeah!
Switch to Straight Talk. Find us at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. For network management practices, visit StraightTalk.com. Requires in-store activation. Device offer ends 6/9/24. Taxes and fees apply.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Day or night. So when you call up that shrink in Beverly Hills, you know the one. Doctor, everything will be alright. Instead of asking how much of your time is left, ask him how much of your mind, baby. 'Cause in this life, things are much harder than the afterworld. This life, you're on your own. And if the elevator tries to break you down, go crazy. Punch a higher floor.
I'm Tavis, and that's Prince Rogers Nelson. Tomorrow, June 7th, is his born date, and we will play some of the best of Prince all 3 hours of today's program. Why? Because June is Black Music Month, and it gives us a good excuse to weave in between all these brilliant guests today and every day this month some of the best music that black folk have ever created. I can't imagine my soundtrack without black music all on it. And so we've been celebrating and will for the rest of this month celebrate black artists in all kinds of genres: jazz, R&B, hip-hop, gospel, folk, blues. You run the list. You're going to get it all this month on Tavis Smiley. But let's get this program started today. I'm pleased to welcome, as I mentioned earlier, the senator from the great state of Wisconsin, We just premiered about a month or so ago on WNOV. I am honored to be heard across the country, and we are adding stations like crazy as we head toward the Democratic Convention this summer. I'm honored. Just looking yesterday at a list of new stations we're about to announce, another 10 or so stations coming on. So we're just grateful and humble to be picked up by stations all across the country. But just humbled to be on WNOV in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and so I am honored to welcome to this station and to this program for the very first time, Senator Tammy Baldwin. Senator, how are you today?
I am great today. Thank you so much for having me on, and welcome to Wisconsin.
Thank you. I love Wisconsin. Been there many, many times and for various events over the years. I'm honored to have you on this program. Let me just start with a couple of broad questions, and I want to do a couple of policy things. This is a unique and bizarre moment in American political history. I am unapologetically and deliberately not coloring this first question too much. Your take on America as we know it these days?
Oh, my. Well, it's so disheartening to see the division, the deep division. And it is also so hard to see rights and freedoms rolled back. And it feels like I'm dealing with both of those circumstances every single day as a United States Senator. As we find ourselves day by day heading towards the November 5th elections, just seeing on full display some of the divisions in our country. And then as I deal with my day job as a United States Senator, looking at what we have seen come out of our United States Supreme Court, and trying to, in my mind, repair the damage and stop it from continuing. That is a tall order and one that I think and work on every single day.
You are certainly more progressive than most U.S. senators, and for that matter, most members of the House. How are progressives finding it these days, navigating public policy and navigating being in those two chambers?
Yeah. So I want to just say a word about the roots of progressivism, because I feel like Wisconsin has a real claim to that. There was a senator in the same seat in which I sit who served about a century ago named Robert M. La Follette Sr., Fighting Bob, he was called, Fighting Bob La Follette. And he was a Republican who founded the progressive movement and the Progressive Party. He later ran for president as a progressive. How times change with regard to the parties, et cetera. But in progressive, his brand of progressivism was really standing up to very powerful interests, monopolies of the day, and fighting for the people. And I believe in that brand of progressivism, and I am often standing up to very powerful interests, be those, big pharmaceutical companies or big multinational corporations or extremists who brought us some of the challenges that we're facing these days, and fighting for Wisconsinites. And in many ways, I feel like progressivism, or at least that kind of progressivism, is really welcome, and it's kind of not partisan, because people want somebody on their side fighting for them against powers that seem very formidable.
Wisconsin is obviously one of the states that the whole nation is watching. I joked the other day, although, as you know, this is more true than it is funny. Joe Biden is likely to take up residency in Wisconsin between now and November. How he will live in Wisconsin and Michigan, I do not know, but he's likely to take up residency in both of those states. I was with Hillary Clinton yesterday. She was here in L.A. yesterday. So she and I were together yesterday, and I raised her because we all know that She lost Michigan to Donald Trump, and had she not lost Michigan, she might be the president of these United States, even though she won the popular vote, as we all know. But Michigan, Wisconsin, a few other states are always in play. And again, we've seen Joe Biden visit your state more times than I can count already, and he will continue to go to Wisconsin, I suspect, between now and November. What say you about the swing state of Wisconsin in this particular election year?
Yeah, so I will say many of the president and his administration's visits to the state of Wisconsin heretofore have been related to some of the major legislation that has passed under his presidency. Announcements about securing funding for major infrastructure projects like the Blotnick Bridge, which is an old and decrepit bridge now that needs to be replaced, that is in Superior, Wisconsin, that connects Superior to Duluth, two states. And he has come to announce new jobs created by virtue of the CHIPS and Science Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. And so a lot of those visits has been, not as candidate Joe Biden, but as President Joe Biden. And what I think right now we're seeing as we pivot again, we're now 5 months out from the election on November 5th, we are seeing voters start to connect the dots of like, these new 200 jobs in my community are because of the work of this administration. The fact that I can afford insulin now and it's no more than $35 a month out of pocket, that's because of this administration and Joe Biden and his leadership. And certainly I'm going to take some credit for those things also. Those are bills that came through both houses of Congress, and I was proud to support and strengthen those measures. But I think that this will begin to hit home for Wisconsinites, sort of connecting the dots on the legislation that was passed and how it's impacting their lives.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you about one or two pieces of specific legislation as we move forward, watching my time. Got about 7 minutes here, and I think I can do a few things in that 7 minutes. You mentioned Joe Biden a couple of times. Obviously, you're a Joe Biden fan. Obviously, you'll be campaigning for Joe Biden and supporting him this time around as a Democratic senator from Wisconsin. No question about that. But how do you feel about the state of this race? Every poll, every survey, every study, his conviction notwithstanding, everything seems to suggest that if the race were held today, if the election were held today, rather, that Donald Trump might win this thing. How concerned are you as a Democrat about your nominee?
Well, first, let's just look at my home state of Wisconsin. Donald Trump won in Wisconsin in 2016 by less than a percentage point. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden won Wisconsin in 2020 by less than a percentage point. In the midterms in 2022, Wisconsin had the closest U.S. Senate race in the country, and so decided with less than a percentage point.
That was the Mandela Barnes race, right?
That was Mandela Barnes and Ron Johnson. And sadly, it went in the wrong direction from my perspective and many others. But let me just say that we're accustomed to razor-thin margins in the state of Wisconsin. This is something that happens with great regularity. We are a deeply divided, an almost evenly divided state when you look at the top of the ticket. So we know it's going to be close, regardless of what is happening in other parts of the country. We knew it was going to be close from the get-go. But I do think that what we're seeing now, again, in Wisconsin, results matter. Mm-hmm. And so, there's a lot of discussion, but I think people are going to ultimately look at accomplishments and who's fighting for them. And
not to cut you off, just watching my time here. In a nutshell, can you, or as best you understand it, given that this is your home state, for the nation listening right now, why is Wisconsin so divided? I mean, there are swing states and there are swing states. To your point, and you laid it out brilliantly, Senator Baldwin, these races in Wisconsin are always so razor thin. I mean, Donald Trump won it by a razor thin margin, as you laid out. Then Biden wins it by a razor thin margin. Why is Wisconsin so divided politically?
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that, and I think some of it is the way in which we have seen assaults on our access to the ballot box and gerrymandering, and those have resulted in trends in the state of Wisconsin that that we've become more polarized and become more evenly divided. It wasn't always the way it was, right? But in these recent decades, we have seen razor-thin margins, and I mean, and I'm talking several decades now.
Sure.
Al Gore won Wisconsin by 5,000 votes. John Kerry won Wisconsin by 11,000 votes. I can go on. Obama won Wisconsin by a little bit more comfortable margin. But I will say that those factors, those efforts have had some impact, and then it's all about turnout.
Yep, turnout.
It's all about turnout, and we've seen years where there's disappointing turnout, and then we have years in which Wisconsin is among the highest turnout in the country.
Yep, I suspect there'll be high turnout this time around. We shall see. In the 2 minutes I have left, there are many who believe that this election will swing in some regard around the issue of a woman's right to choose and what we saw the Supreme Court do on Roe v. Wade. Tell me quickly about the Right to Contraception Act of 2024.
Well, it's something that is necessitated by the Dobbs decision. When Roe versus Wade was overturned, the court basically said there is no constitutional right to privacy. And as a lawyer, I can tell you, I remember reading all sorts of cases that were resting upon a right to privacy, including access to contraception, including marriage, including all sorts of matters of deeply private natures. And so we are now seeing states, question going back to the days where you could not access contraception. And we need to pass the Right to Contraception Act to clarify and make sure that Justice Thomas doesn't get his wish and that case come back before this activist Supreme Court to be decided a different way. We have seen an erosion of rights and freedoms in the United States, Dobbs overturning Roe versus Wade being primary among them, but implicating that other rights and freedoms will be pared back too.
The U.S. Supreme Court has had their say. Fortunately, Congress can speak up again, and so you hear Wisconsin Senator Tammy Baldwin saying, and many agree, that now is the time to pass the Right to Contraception Act of 2024. We shall see what happens with that in the coming days, but I can assure you we'll be talking a lot more about Wisconsin between now and November, and I can also assure you on election night we'll all be watching the state of Wisconsin. I have been honored to have had one of their senators on this program, Senator Tammy Baldwin. Senator, thank you for your time, for your efforts in Washington, and we'll do it again somewhere down the road, I hope.
I hope so, too. Thank you.
All right, take care of yourself. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, Minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
We welcome you to a Thursday. It's June 6th. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. President Biden is drawing comparisons between the Allied fight in World War II to the war Ukraine faces against Russia today. Speaking at a ceremony in France to mark the 80th anniversary of the D-Day invasion, Biden said the fight against tyrants never ends. Biden said the Ukrainians are fighting with courage and suffering great losses since the Russian invasion. 50 Cent is on Capitol Hill pushing for more black representation in the liquor industry. The African-American rap mogul, whose real name is Curtis Jackson, joined attorney Ben Crum to raise awareness about black-owned liquor brands and their struggles within the competitive luxury spirits industry. He also met with the Black Congressional Caucus. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com, and I sell custom blinds designed for do-it-yourselfers. Unlike stock blinds offered at big box retailers, Blindster blinds are custom made for your windows and shipping is free. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Game 1 of the NBA Finals is tonight. The Boston Celtics versus the Dallas Mavericks. The first two games are in Boston. The Celtics are 6-point favorites in Game 1. They haven't played in 9 days. 5:30 tip-off on ABC. The Angels pulled off their first series sweep of the season. They won all 3 games against San Diego. Congrats to Angels manager Ron Washington. The Dodgers lost again in Pittsburgh. The Dodgers pitching staff gave up 10 runs. The LA Sparks are now 2-7 in the WNBA after losing at home by 24 to the Minnesota Lynx. Troubling moment for the Chicago Sky when they arrived at their team hotel Wednesday in Washington, D.C. When the players got off the bus, a man approached Sky forward Kennedy Carter and shouted racist remarks at her. The man expressed anger at Carter for committing a flagrant foul Saturday on Indiana Fever guard Caitlin Clark. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580, where climate is king. Climate is king. We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice and injustice, the courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities and sports figures, elected leaders and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Ariva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Ariva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Bank of America has powerful digital solutions for local and global businesses, so you can make every move matter. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. Bank of America N.A. Copyright 2024.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment through the arts. Tia Chucha Central Cultural is on a mission to transform community in the Northeast San Fernando Valley and beyond through ancestral knowledge, the arts, literacy, and creative engagement. The Northeast San Fernando Valley has a population of about 500,000, the size of the city of Oakland, yet it has no bookstores, art galleries, or full-fledged cultural spaces until Tia Chuchas opened its doors in 2001. Founded by renowned poet and activist Luis Rodriguez, Tia Chuchas Cultural Center provides a year-round free or low-cost arts and literacy bilingual intergenerational programming in mural painting, music, dance, writing, visual arts, events, healing art sessions, and healing talking circles. Activities also include Mexica, Aztec dance, indigenous cosmology, philosophy, and 2 weekly open mic nights, one in Spanish, the other in English. In addition, they host author readings, film screenings, and art exhibits. To express yourself, heal yourself, attend an event, or volunteer, please visit www.tiachucha.org. That's TIACHUCHA.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
When you get nachos, tacos, empanadas, spicy queso with jalapenos, Pepto-Bismol's there. Pepto-Bismol provides fast, effective relief from nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, and diarrhea. All the things that can happen unexpectedly on vacation. So before you travel, pack the Pepto. Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Pizza's here. Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
You could say it was a good day, at least a little better than the day in Baltimore.
We continue sharing some of the best of Prince, Rogers Nelson. Tomorrow, June 7th, is Prince's born day, and we are in the month of June, and June is Black Music Month. How fitting that Prince's birthday is in the month of June, Black Music Month. And so every day this month we pick a different artist, and we call it our artist in residence, and so every day we choose a different artist and we play their music all 3 hours of our program, weaved in between these conversations with these amazing guests. And so today, all 3 hours, we celebrate the music of one Prince who I miss dearly all these years later. A conversation now with theologian, social activist, and author Rahel Tesfamariam about her new book, Imagine Freedom, Transforming Pain into Political and Spiritual Power. Imagine Freedom, Transforming Pain into Political and Spiritual Power. Pleased to have her on this program. Rahel, how are you today?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you on the program. Let's make the most of the time that we have here. I think I want to start with this. It's a broad question, but it'll give you some canvas, I think, to paint, and then we will build from there. The title of the text, once again, is called Imagine Freedom. I wonder how you process that notion of imagining freedom in this present moment.
Wow, that's an important, powerful question. At a moment in which there is so much, what I call in the book, unfreedom,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you know, just all the ways in which we are seeing oppression, colonialism, apartheid, things that we once thought were ancient history. We're seeing them in real time. You know, we're having conversations about apartheid states, and I think it's showing us that freedom that we thought we won, we don't actually win once and for all, but we got to keep fighting for them over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Why is that? Why do you think the fight for these freedoms is perennial?
Well, I think that, you know, white supremacy and capitalism are here to stay. And they're here to stay because, not to say that they won't ever be abolished, but they've been around for centuries. You know, and anything that's been around for centuries typically has a hard time ending itself without much resistance, right? And there is some ways complacency that we have adopted. There's apathy that we have adopted. We've convinced ourselves that we have all the freedoms that we want. You know, we've decided that a comfortable middle class existence is the definition of freedom in many ways. And until we change our conception of liberation to be beyond just economic comfort, I think we're going to always have these issues.
Somebody once said many, many years ago that freedom ain't free. It is not. One of the prices of freedom is eternal vigilance. I want to ask two questions in that regard. First of all, let me start with this. Somebody asked me this question not long ago, and I gave my answer. But when you use the word freedom, we're talking about your book, Imagine Freedom. But when you engage in conversations about freedom, you're thinking of exactly or precisely what when it comes to freedom?
Well, in the book, Imagine Freedom, we have this journey through freedom that is intimately tied to healing. Mm-hmm. And it's looked at through the lens of the children of Israel in the Bible, journeying from Egypt, which is a site of trauma and oppression, to the wilderness, which I call a site of resistance, and finally to the promised land, which is a site of redemption, and divine fulfillment. So freedom in some ways is beyond just the natural realm, but it's about how we get free spiritually as well, and the reason that that's so important is that there has to be forms of freedom that oppressors cannot take from us, that are not defined by the oppressor's power, but defined by our own internal power, by our own internal paradise. So there has to be a freedom that is not conditional based on location and destination, but is based on our own psychology and emotional well-being. So it's in some ways the capacity to be free, no matter what your lived circumstances or reality actually are.
Mm-hmm. I mentioned earlier that freedom ain't free. We all know that. And yet I'm wondering in this present moment what you make of the cost, the price to be free these days.
Oh, that's a great question. We see that price today when you have so many people who know that this is one of the most important elections of our lifetime and who know that one vote is not going to bring us closer to freedom. And so a lot of people this year are asking themselves, what is the price that they're willing to pay for freedom? And some people are taking that conversation in directions it hasn't gone before, about a third-party system, about envisioning an America that has never existed, but defined by our own terms. So I think in some ways the cost is that we have to be able to stretch our imagination muscles in ways that they're not typically stretched, and there will be a time in which we know that what we have is not freedom, but we got to have an exit strategy that sees beyond just this year and next year, but also the long term, right? Mm-hmm. And so the price might be our immediate comfort. We may not be comfortable if we really do what it takes to be free. And so you got a lot of people who are willing to even, relinquish this election from the Democrats in an attempt to be more free.
I'm processing that latter point. Let me think about that a bit more. When we come forward, based on what you said earlier in this conversation, I sense a distinction in your mind and in your work and your witness. I sense a distinction between freedom and liberation. If I'm right about that, I want you to unpack that for me. Freedom versus liberation. Our guest is Rahel Tesfamariam. Her book is called Imagine Freedom, Transforming Pain into Political and Spiritual Power. We'll talk about that part, political and spiritual power, as we move forward in this conversation. Glad to have you tuned in right now to Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up.
Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone, and should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Hi, Tavis Smiley here. We're getting closer to June 18th, and time is running out for you to register to join us for our historic symposium live on C-SPAN, Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Admission is free, but you must register at KBLA1580.com right now if you want to be in the audience when the nation will see for the first time ever a stage full of brilliant black folk talking about the urgency of now. Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. It's all going down. Well, it's actually all going up. Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. live from the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Again, admission is free, but we're filling up fast. So if I were you, I would log on right now to KBLA1580.com to reserve your seat. Caring about the climate, caring about the community. We're KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and Affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Made fresh daily in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Rahel Tesfamariam about her new book, Imagine Freedom, Transforming Pain into Political and Spiritual Power. Rahel, I thought I sensed earlier a distinction, perhaps subtle, you tell me, between freedom and liberation for you. Did I hear something there?
Well, freedom is something that typically, in some ways, is looked at as individualistic. It's the idea of a person's own sense of freedom. We don't typically talk about freedom in a collective lens. Liberation, I think, oftentimes is seen as collective because liberation is also bound to sources of oppression that are collective. So there's a way in which, one person can be free, but we as a people may not be liberated. So there's that subtle distinction, between folks who may feel they've arrived, folks who may feel they are free, folks who may feel they have no economic bondage, no psychological, spiritual bondage. But as a people, as Black Americans, as people of the African diaspora, are we truly liberated? And that's where you could argue that we're absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of this notion of freedom, again, to your book's title, Imagine Freedom. I'm thinking about that in the context of the political campaign that you referenced earlier, namely the race for the White House. Joe Biden has closed the southern border, as we know. So there's the issue of immigration, which we'll talk more about today in our third and final hour with Ray Suarez, the brilliant broadcaster. He has a new book out called We Are Home. Becoming American in the 21st Century and Oral History, and I love that title, We Are Home. So there's the immigration issue where people are yearning to be free. I'm thinking of the words etched on the Statue of Liberty. Bring me your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe, yearning to be free. We let some folk in and other folks we give a hard time to get in. People like Haitians, for example. So I'm thinking about freedom in that regard and what that looks like. I'm thinking about freedom for those in Palestine right now and the fight that they're engaged in. So when you think about this notion of freedom around the globe and what we see in this moment for folk fighting for it, you think what?
Well, that brilliant point about we are home, I am someone who left home, whose siblings left home, and we left home because hell was made out of our home, and it wasn't until I was older until I realized, in my case, Eritrea, it wasn't just Eritrea against Ethiopia, but it was also Western interests that were pulling us like puppets, pulling on our strings like puppets for their own interests, their own economic interests, their own desire to obtain natural resources, and their own, warring against China or Russia, and how Africa was literally used, as a chess piece. So there's a way in which the U.S. has never atoned not only for its atrocities on its homeland, but the atrocities that it's committed all over the world, in South Africa and in South America and the continent. So there's a way in which we have to make a home because they have made our places inhabitable, right? And so Palestine is no different than that. Palestine is not a bubble set apart from Western U.S. foreign policy. Palestine is what it is because of what the U.S. has been doing for decades and decades and decades for its own self-interest, right? And so our liberation is bound up with one another. We are tied together in many ways because we have common enemies. And, those enemies are funded by our own tax dollars. So when we talk about, who is our friend, who is our comrade, who is our ally, they're people who we may have never seen, who don't look like us, but who suffer like us, who suffer economically like us.
The book is called Imagine Freedom, Transforming Pain into Political and Spiritual Power. Its author is our guest in this hour, Rahel Tesfamariam, and you're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful they saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles is a nonprofit law firm that protects and advances the rights of the most underserved, leveling the playing field and ensuring that everyone can have access to the justice system. Every year, LAFLA provides free, high-quality legal services to more than 100,000 people living in poverty across greater Los Angeles. Their unique combination of neighborhood offices, self-help centers at courthouses, and domestic violence clinics puts Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles on the front lines in vulnerable communities and at the forefront of change. LAFLA's expert team of attorneys, paralegals, and support staff works to provide direct representation, offer counsel and advice, provide referrals, and educate the community about their legal rights through workshops and seminars. With locations all over LA, you can access their services or volunteer to help no matter where you live. And if you have an urgent issue, call 213-235-0060. That's 213-235-0060. To get legal help, make a donation, or volunteer, visit lafla.org. lafla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Family Talk with Straight Talk.
You give and you give. It's time to get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data, and you get to choose who joins your family plan starting as low as $25 a line. Does it have to be family? It can be family or people you like.
Get more lines and more savings. Switch to Straight Talk for family plans starting as low as $25 a line per month for 4 lines. Find us at Walmart and straighttalk.com. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com. Family plan discount with 4 lines, all on the Silver Unlimited plan. Taxes and fees apply.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Rahel Tesfamarian, my remaining moments with her. I got about 4 minutes here left. Her book is called Imagine Freedom, Transforming Pain into Political and Spiritual Power. I want to close our conversation going to the subtitle of the book, Transforming Pain into Political and Spiritual Power. That seems, Rahel, to be a lot easier said than done. How do we do that part, as they say?
One, I just have to say, I've been studying your work for a very long time, from the days of the Covenant, State of Black America. You are one of my elders who have paved the way for a book like Imagine Freedom. So I must say that. And so transforming pain into power, a lot of our bondage historically was very visible. You could see the limitations on us. But now a lot of the bondage is psychological, it's emotional, it's manifesting through mental health and generational cycles of trauma. And so we have to reconfigure our understanding of bondage, because if we don't name these demons that are coming for us, we will never be delivered from them. And so there's a way in which we have to look at what are the ways in which white supremacy has a grip on us that may not look like the same grip it had in prior centuries, right? And that grip is showing up in social media, is showing up in standards of beauty, is showing up in new forms of colonization. And so I think we have to revisit what it means to be a colonized Black American. Mm-hmm. We have to talk about that as if it is now a pressing issue and not something of the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, I'm reading a number of messages that have come through, Rahel, in the midst of this conversation about what you and I were wrestling with moments ago, and that is this notion of freedom versus liberation. And I think I want to close on this note. And first of all, thank you for your kind words. I deeply appreciate it. But I think I want to close on this note, back to freedom and liberation, and ask whether or not, let me preface it this way. I've said many times that there really ain't but 2 types of people, as far as I'm concerned. Ain't but 2 types of people. Either you're running scared or you're running free. You're either running scared or you're running free. I ain't got time to unpack that, but that's my sense of the 2 types of people that live on this planet. Either you're running scared or you're running free. My exit question is, if freedom is about the individual, as you brilliantly described earlier, and liberation is about the collective, is liberation possible? Do you see liberation in the future for our people?
Well, I think liberation, it depends on the limits you place on your own liberation. I mean, there's a type of liberation that I know I will only find outside of this realm in the afterlife, right? Mm-hmm. So my conception of true liberation is spiritual. And the power of that, and we see that in Palestine, the power of what we're seeing in Palestinians is that these are, an oppressed people who have known oppression for decades and centuries, but yet have a sense of emancipation, of freedom that is internal, because they know that their God has liberated them. They know that their God has given them worth and value and has a promise for them. Yeah. So I do think that we can be free, but it's about where. Can we ever be free in America as we know America today? Or do we have to dismantle and abolish the America of today to build a new one where we can actually be liberated?
No, if I had the time, I could delve into that. I wish I had the time to delve into that part. That is why she's a theologian, social activist, and author. Her name is Rahel Tesfamarian. Her book is called Imagine Freedom, Transforming Pain into Political and Spiritual Power. As she answered that last question, my mind went to that scene in Roots where Fiddler is dying. He's in the arms of Kunta Kinte, and Kunta says to Fiddler as he dies in his arms, "Fiddler, use free now. Fiddler, use free now. I take the point that Rahel just made about when, where, and how true freedom and true liberation comes. I'll leave it there. Rahel, good to have you on. Congrats on the text. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. This was a pleasure and an honor.
Likewise for me. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
We welcome you to a Thursday. It's June 6th. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. President Biden is drawing comparisons between the Allied fight in World War II to the war Ukraine faces against